On the flip side of that, moving to thing number four, we're not going to talk about is there actually a future for malls? I'm not sure if this thing is actually in the five things because it aligns with our previous thing, or if it's a shot for Gary to take a stab at Ohio State players, but we'll find out here in a minute. Thing number five, Andrew, I'm going to start with you. Is Gen Z actually embracing malls? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so definitely that first third thing with Macy's that led into this thing. But right now, a CNBC article came out last week that basically the title is Gen Z to the Rescue: How Malls Are Winning Over a Generation of In-Person Shoppers. So I'm a member of Gen Z, so I'm giving my take on the opportunities that they're presenting for malls and if I think it's that accurate. And there's a few things that that article presents, and one of them is that Gen Z is obsessed with instant gratification, and I 100% agree with that. I think I'm the same way. If I see something online, I instantly want to buy it or go to the store, and that's basically what the article says: is Gen Z, if they want something, they're going to go to the store and buy it instantly. But I think you kind of have to think about things more in my point of view because this article paints a picture of kind of this 80s type, all the teenagers and stuff going to the malls, but I don't know if that's necessarily the case still today. For example, if I see something online, Gen Z's seeing stuff on TikTok and Instagram, and they're more than likely just going to buy it then because is that product necessarily going to be in that mall or in that store? More than likely, not. That's not very likely, and have the correct size and that sort of thing. And while, yes, there are advantages to going to the store, you can try things on, but overall, the likelihood of that product being there is fairly low. So that's one thing that I think the article gets somewhat wrong. And then there's also a factor about Gen Z going to malls these days. My cousin, he's 17, he's banned from the mall. Um, he, you're if you're under 18, you have to have a chaperone at the mall. And so I think you get like three strikes, and he passed his three strikes, and now he's banned from the mall for going to the mall too many times being under 18. And while that's fair, but this article is saying, oh, Gen Z's going to the mall, but my cousin's banned from the mall. Like I don't know if this is really that accurate of a Gen Z to the rescue when he's banned from going to the mall. But on that note, and there's also a safety thing. Like malls across the country, they're having to introduce these like requirements to have a chaperone and stuff. Like if you're a shopper, you don't want to go somewhere where you don't feel safe. And if malls are having to like add all these like requirements and stuff, that's not great for both everyone and also Gen Z. So that's something that I want to point out. But then there's a part of the article that I think find very interesting and I think applies across the board to experiences. They say like because of COVID and whatnot, people in my generation especially are more in tune to wanting experiences and stuff when they go to the mall. And I 100% agree with that because I think from stores that I've been to in the past that have experiences, I'm more likely to go back. So there's a brand out in the Midwest. It's called Chills. I don't know if any of you guys have heard about it, but it's a big like outdoor sporting goods store, and it's absolutely like fantastic. Like they've got a rock climbing wall in the middle, like every single brand you can think of, and it's all like maxed out. And if I'm a consumer, I still want to go to that store. You know, that experience, it's cool, it's fun. I want to go buy something there. But if I'm going to Macy's, for instance, it's old, the the merchandising's terrible. It's everything's a mess. I don't really want to do that as a shopper. And really, the experience there is not the same as if I go to a cool store like that that's got all kinds of options and is very like well done. But companies that's like the future, like the if we're thinking about the future of malls, we have to think about what the experience is all about. And I think some places are doing it correctly and some are not. And that's something that everyone is very interested in. And I think that my generation will be much more experience driven when they go to shop because of kind of their past with COVID and being locked up and that sort of thing. So going forward, I think that malls, there's still a place for them to stay, but I think you have to think about bringing in experiences. Is it a completely like department store driven mall? I don't think that's the approach for the future. More smaller stores, larger indoor outdoor for format, that's a better experience for the customer versus your older department like stores. Gary, do you have anything you would add to
Yeah,
that?
I think in some ways things have come full circle. So
Yeah.
when I was a teenager, my friends and I used to hang out at the mall. It was a fun thing to do for the afternoon. We'd go, we'd have lunch in the food court, go to a few of our favorite stores. There'd be a movie theater. I think a lot of the malls now understand that experiences matter. That's what you were talking about. Some of them are putting in, you know, uh, high-end arcades, bowling alleys, miniature golf, things that, people can do for fun. The CNBC article proving how out of touch they are talked about some mall in Ohio had to encourage traffic. They had Ohio State football players go there to offer their signatures.
There it is.
My question is, after four straight losses to Michigan, does anyone want that anymore?
Yeah, probably not. I think
Like,
I know my answer now. And
yeah.
once Andrew brought that to the table and Gary read that Ohio State line, and he's wearing his Michigan shirt, so I think this is a setup, and we're
It
losing Ohio State fans and subscribers.
I will live with that outcome.
Oh, that's too good.
We'll be fine with that. But you know what? The thing I would add, and I don't know if this is the case now, but when I was a teenager, every 80s teen movie had scenes in the mall.
Yeah,
There was always at least one scene
yeah,
of, everyone they'd have like a montage or,
yeah.
some event would happen there. In the written version of the five things, I actually hid links to a bunch of them in there. So I put links to some of the, memorable 80s films that had scenes in the mall. I recommend that everybody click on those and go watch those films. They are different than the films being made today.
Yeah, I mean, even you think about Stranger Things, right? Set in that time period, tons of scenes happening in the mall there.
Yeah.
Some of the biggest scenes of the show. And then, Andrew, what you were talking, Bass Pro Shops, I think is another great
Yeah.
example, right?
Yeah,
Of
that's
that
fun.
Yeah.
consumer experience. And then actually, one point I'm curious. So, Gary Vaynerchuk, not sure if you guys are familiar with him, big influencer, social media agencies, so kind of my side of the world. He talks about actual retail locations becoming online live shopping locations, right? So the argument that having merchandise out on the floor, you can only make so much on that, right? Especially if you don't
Oh,
have foot traffic. So actually, I guess it's pretty big in, I think, China and Japan, to where a lot of retail locations will actually use the location as a set or a studio, live stream. Here's what we have. Here's what we have. Here's what we have. Here's what we have. And so the buying transaction's actually happening online, but you're utilizing the retail space of the department store or whatever it may be.
you know what
He
that
thinks
is,
that
Rob?
that's actually a trend and a wave that will be coming to the United States. And he's been pretty spot on in identifying kind of those early moving social platforms.
That's like a live version of the Home Shopping Network.
That's right. Exactly right.
Yeah.
That's the best way to put it. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's it.
I think there's a platform. I know a lot of like smaller like women's boutiques. They do a lot of that. I don't know if
Yes.
that's like a
Yeah. Yeah.
southern thing or
Don't-
if that's
I
across the
know
country.
I know that because we had a client and they were a luxury good purses, right? They do the
Yeah,
Louis Vuitton and they would do the same thing. They do
yeah,
Instagram lives. Here's this inventory we have, trying to move it. But again, really small boutique shop. Yeah.
yeah.